Well, so when you look at Mike Hamilton today, you will notice that he is not in his office.
Mhm.
Mike, it was not Russian hackers
No,
who locked you out of your office. It was
no,
not the North Koreans. It wasn't even the Chinese. Mike, who locked you out of your office?
I did. I did. There is no key. I was unaware that there was no key for the office. I reflexively locked the door on my way out, and here I am. So it's all right. This is an expansive space. This is our new space in Bremerton. It's a giant facility over here. There's plenty of desks for me to work at, and two guys have offered to try and pick the lock. So
And by the way, and I would like to point out that this is a really good metaphor that no matter how much you prepare for an attack, no matter how good your defenses are, and no matter how smart you think you are, sometimes there are self-inflicted wounds, aren't there, Mike? So
sometimes you step on a rake. Yep.
yeah, and that just happens. So
Yep.
so something that I do want to say, a great thing happened yesterday. We did our panel on the NIST CSF 2.0,
Oh yeah, that was
and
really
I don't
good.
and
Fred
I don't
Fred was really good.
and I don't know that we've ever done a panel where in the middle of it, multiple people put in the chat, "This is really good." Now, I don't know if that's a comment on the fact that the other webinars we've done haven't been really good, but I will take it as people really love this one.
Mhm.
And more, man, I woke up this morning still like with my heart full. This was great.
I watched the
Um,
replay last night. I thought it was so Fred was a superstar in
yep,
this thing. I mean, he
yep.
was super well prepared and authoritative about everything he was talking about. And I enjoyed listening to Fred. I learned some stuff.
And one of the things that's important is that when you Mike gave a demo of his spreadsheet, his NIST CSF spreadsheet to help folks align to it. Now, it is aligned to NIST CSF 1.1 because
Hmm.
2.0 is not out yet. It's supposed to be out any day now,
Like
um,
today.
like today, or sometime. But anyway, if anybody wants that spreadsheet, let us know. You can shoot me an email, jake@criticalinsight.com, and I'll get it to you, or hit me up on LinkedIn, and we'll make sure we get it to you. And then Mike is offering some of his time to meet with folks to help them understand the spreadsheet. It is a giant, complex spreadsheet, as one would expect, and Mike can help
Eh,
folks with it.
it's not that bad.
Um, it depends. It depends.
Okay, it
It
does.
depends whether you're a spreadsheet kind of person. Um, one thing, so that by the way is the webinar we did. The next two things we have coming up is changes to healthcare cybersecurity, changes
Right.
for hospitals, patient-focused organizations, benefits organizations that are happening this year. That panel's on June 6th, and then we have security awareness training on June 9th. And there you go. So Mike, I did wake up with that, like, hey, this is really good news. This is really good about our webinar yesterday. I
Hmm.
got to tell you one bad thing. One thing that has me really down is an Idaho hospital in Idaho Falls, which is usually where I fly in and out of when I go to
I read
Idaho.
that this morning. Yep.
Got hit, and they're diverting patients, and it's awful. And I
Did they
cannot tell you how
close some
angry.
clinics too? They
Oh,
just close some clinics. I mean,
I can't.
they'll
It makes me
reopen, but
so angry. It makes me so angry.
well, I mean, Idaho for a lot of reasons. I mean, the health sector is on the ropes in general, and in Idaho, it's really struggling just because some doctors have left the state for reasons,
I know, but I
and
mean, I but I
this really
but I
doesn't
think this
help.
is this is more, rural hospitals, need better funding
Yeah,
and need better cyber postures. And the criminals are really good at what they do. I mean, this is you can't just point at a hospital and say, "Oh, it's their fault because they didn't do all the things." Well, they don't have the resources, they don't have the backing, they don't have all of the things they need to do to all the things, and it's just not fair to point your finger at them. That said, it just makes me so angry that
yeah.
that
Well,
anybody's attacking hospitals.
so that
Just
that anybody, I mean, since we jumped into healthcare here, you saw that there was a Willis Towers Watson report. That just it follows up a bunch of stuff we've heard from the FBI and CISA anyway. But here's Willis Towers Watson saying, "Hey, Russian and North Korean hackers are taking aim at the healthcare industry. All right,
mhm.
and they're extorting money. They, it's not, this is not espionage, it's not intellectual property. They're stealing money. And
Mhm.
so, how does a rural hospital go up against, nation state actors? You know, it's not a fair fight.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it's not a fair fight at all. I mean, it's infuriating, and we as a country need to do more. We need to do more here.
yeah, well, federal government needs to step in, and I told you what I think we should do is once we catch them, we make an example out of them to
I know,
deter others.
I know, I
We'll
know,
leave the
I
details out of what I think should happen to them.
know. Speaking of healthcare, this Norton Healthcare, their cyber attack was 3 weeks ago. They're still having
Hmm.
trouble, right?
They're diverting patients still, and there's actually a story. It's kind of sad because it's from the first person perspective of someone who is being denied cancer treatment.
Oh.
Yeah, and just can't can't get it done. And so this, when we talked about a few weeks ago, the reports that are coming out saying, well, when something like this happens to a healthcare facility, the impact is regional because everybody's got to go to different ERs, right? Ambulances get diverted, stuff like that. Patients have to be sent elsewhere, and it impacts the entire region.
Hmm.
So, this one Norton Healthcare, was it 3 weeks ago or longer than that? I know this has been going on a long time. Um, and just, I guess we'll just tie off healthcare here. There's Fortra is another one of these one-stop shops where if you can compromise them because they're a service provider to a whole lot of healthcare companies. Fortra data breach got 130 companies at once, many in the healthcare sector, and so now there's lawsuits piling up. The way they did this was, we keep hearing the story over there, is file transfer software vulnerability. It didn't get patched, right? Something called Go
Hmm.
Anywhere, and the Clop ransomware gang has been out exploiting that. So if you are notified of a vulnerability on something that's internet facing and you fail to take action, you're stepping on a rake.
Yeah. Hey, there's some other big news you want to talk about. One with ransomware attacks on local government, right?
On the rise. A lot of companies, big companies, put out kind of their global assessments of things, and Emisoft is one of those companies. And so they put out the annual state of ransomware report, and they talked about 105 state or local governments got hit with ransomware, and at least 27 of those data theft was combined with the ransomware. So local government and the health sector are the ones that are really being hit the worst here, and
Yeah.
that's why we work preferentially with those sectors. They're hard to work with, but that's the stuff that matters.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And um firewalls also big problem.
Oh, that, yeah. So there's a couple firewalls. So Barracuda firewalls had a patch come out, and people didn't apply the patch, and now they're owned. And the Barracuda thing has actually gotten pretty bad. But the new news is there are some researchers that have discovered vulnerabilities in Zyxel firewalls. Zyxel,
Hmm.
and the vulnerabilities are being exploited by a botnet that looks kind of like the Mirai botnet that was all about compromising IoT.
Hmm.
And what they're saying, and this is an interesting quote, if you own one of those firewalls, the researchers say, assume you are compromised. Assume you are compromised, right? Because it's just too
Great.
easy. It's too easy to scan the network and go, okay, identify, these particular devices, and then if you have an exploit to pop them, just pop them.
Yeah, for sure.
It does not take long to do that globally.
Hmm. Hmm. For sure. Oh,
Mhm.
well, that doesn't make me feel good, Mike. But speaking of things that don't make me feel good, you made a prediction. When we started seeing layoffs, when we started seeing an economic downturn, when we started seeing all the things,
Uh,
you said, every time this happens, some of those folks turn to crime.
and like
And now there's proof.
well, there's a report, and I think this came from Forbes actually, um, how the economic downturn has contributed to the increase in cybercrime. Okay,
Hmm.
so it's the economic downturn, that's part of it. It's also lowering the bar for entry into criminal activity. You don't have to be a super coder. You don't have to have a criminal mind. All you have to do is co-opt the service-based compromises out there, right? Initial access brokers, ransomware as a service, things like that. And it's all too easy. And so if you have tech skills, the other thing that's going on is you're being recruited by criminals. If you have really good coding skills, well, they may want to just put you on the payroll, which is, you get bonuses, benefits. I mean, they've
Bonuses and benefits sound better than a lot of jobs.
well,
I mean,
and it's all remote work. Hey, I
yeah, you
wouldn't
can even do it while
advise.
you can do it while you're driving a Lyft. You can do it while you're driving an Uber. Yeah. Um, maybe the person who delivers lunch to the office today,
Yeah.
because you're locked out of your office, you can ask them.
Okay, let's not go there again. So there's another interesting article while we're talking about this. The things that cause businesses to lose money, right? And we spent a lot of time talking about ransomware and extortion, things like that. But the number one way that we as a country lose money to criminals like this is through not even necessarily business email compromise, but like invoice fraud and
Right.
CEO scams and stuff like that. These are dominating what's going on right now in terms of fraud that affects business. And
Yeah.
again, it's just too easy to do. And I don't know if I showed you this. I may have sent you this. So you know what an advance fee scam is, right? Hey, I have this thing of value and I'd like to give it to you. And you engage with this person. They start asking you for money right away. All right. Well, the last one I got purported to be from a philanthropist, entrepreneur who
Mhm.
was early investor in Google and things like that. And there actually are articles out there talking about how the fact that he's fixated on giving away his billions. Okay. And so I get this email and it's very well written. It's got links to Forbes articles about or Fortune articles about what he's doing. There are no grammatical mistakes. And at the end, it's like, okay, I'm randomly throwing this out in email. Right, everybody was on the BCC list, so it was addressed to you, and at the end it says, okay, contact me, and it's like from an address in Japan, and the return, if you're going to engage, you send it back. There's a reply to address, so it's got all the signs that it's bad, but it was so well written. I'm wondering,
Sounds like it
is
was better
Chat
written than the
GPT?
email. Yeah, it sounds like
Well,
it's better written than the emails you send.
very funny. I'm just wondering now if we're going to start seeing more and more of this, really well crafted phishing, because this is one of the predictions
Yeah,
is that this generative AI would generate, advanced fee scams and fraud email that looks
yeah,
really good.
sure,
Well, I'm seeing it.
absolutely. I mean,
And,
hop on there and write me a phishing,
and by the way, my
report.
login failures continue. They're coming from all over the world. They stopped last night at about 6:48, but they've been going on for years, not years. They've been going on for weeks, like every 20 seconds.
You're gonna have to turn on 3FA. Um,
Mm.
hey, so back to the news here. A couple of minutes left here. Threats and vulns. You talked about the Barracuda thing. What else you got?
There's a couple of articles coming out about pre-owned. And when I say pre-owned, I mean it's pre-compromised Android phones. And so if you buy,
It's not like a pre-owned
no,
car.
it's not a used. No, um, um, there was
Does
one
it
article
come?
talked
Does it?
about
Does it come with a factory warranty? Sorry, go ahead.
that some criminal syndicate put out 8.9, or apparently 8.9 million users have these Android phones that are already compromised. And these actors are starting to branch out into other kinds of Android based IoT, like smart TVs,
Mhm.
uh, children's watches, even, right? Stuff like that. So they're nasty. And then I read another article. Something like 240 million people are compromised from an app that they downloaded from Google Play, and these apps had all used a component that was compromised, and so right, they propagate this
Sure.
thing, and it's something like, I think they said 412 million. All right, so there's these astronomical numbers of people that using Android phones and downloading these apps out of the app store
And
that
by
are
the way,
compromised.
the app is a really interesting one. So anytime, so Mike and I do security awareness training every other week.
Hmm.
The most common question we get from non-IT people, from people come who are accountants, professors,
Criminals.
librarians, all sorts. They all want to say, hey, what should I do about my phone? Everybody always has phone questions because it's the computer that you hold in your hand, right?
Hmm.
So this one is called iRecorder Screen Recorder.
Right. That's it.
And
Yes.
one of the important things to know is this is a recommended, like, if you Google what should I use for screen recorders, like, there are articles that recommend this app. Like, this is a real issue.
Well, those are clever criminals, I mean, so again, this is a supply chain compromise, right? They went back into the depths of all the components that standardized, method software uses, compromised that, and then
Mhm.
propagated it throughout this ecosystem because there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apps that use that component, that video recorder component. So get an iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But sure. Any other threats and vulns you want to talk about?
There's a Mirai botnet targeting IoT devices that's going on. A bunch of WordPress sites have this cookie consent plugin right now. Well, you have to consent to, hey, we want to put cookies on your thing. But plugin that does that for WordPress sites is compromised. So there's some threat group that's taking over VMs using the Azure Serial Console. That's going on. There's a lot more. Patch Chrome. Yeah.
Indeed. All right. At the end of all of these, you have something that makes people smile, but you don't really do that. You really just make people think harder, I guess. Something
Well,
to remember. What do you got?
well, I like the one about the IT employee that impersonated a ransomware gang to extort this person's employer because they actually did get hit by a ransomware gang, but the guy had access to the email system, and so what he did was he took over the communications as if he were the gang, and redirected the payment to a crypto wallet that he owned. Um, of course, he got caught, but you know going back on, hey, the economic downturn and the lowering of the bar, the barrier to entry is getting people to kind of consider, twisting the doorknobs if nothing else. Well, this guy twisted a doorknob, walked through a door that slammed shut behind him, and now he's sorry.
That you're going to say the doorknob was hot. There's a fire on the other side, and he shouldn't have opened it.
But he did have a
That's
key, so
that's funny. I thought the one you were going to use was the lawyer who used Chat GPT to, to write an argument to a court, and it
the
cited a
judge
whole bunch
busted
of
him.
yeah, a whole bunch of BS.
And now, yeah. So this was a close runner-up, right? I think the guy's name is Steven Schwartz, and he's got in some kind of litigation with Avianca Airlines about something or other, and the judge is sanctioning him because he brought in arguments, uh, a precedent that was invented by ChatGPT that was absolutely false. So ChatGPT makes stuff up. Beware
Of
of
course it
that.
does. Of course it
Yeah,
does. If you look me up on Chat GPT, it says I'm married to the wrong person, which is a conversation for another day. All
I
right.
look forward to that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All
Hmm.
right. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Mike,
Yeah,
we hope that someday you get back in your office. This has been
I did
very
too.
entertaining having you stuck out of your office. All right, everyone. Have a good week. Talk to you later.
Bye.